straight from the roof. Okay, we had to get our 3 cats, our dog, myself, my husband. Everything was flooded.
People in parts of the county forced out of their homes are thankful to be safe and alive tonight, and many of them have lost everything. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. The woman you just heard from lives on hard-hit 42nd Street in Mountain View, one of many flooded neighborhoods in the county. And San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria has issued a state of emergency for the city tonight.
We have team coverage from the North County to the South Bay. We begin tonight with CBS 8's Steve Price live in Mountain View. Steve?
And Marcella and Carlo, I'm on 42nd Street, which is still covered with mud. Neighbors out here have been cleaning up for quite a while, all day. It's going to take them days, if not weeks, but they're thankful no one was killed.
Cars underwater, children rescued, front yards flooded.
It was crazy. I mean, it happened so fast.
Naomi Terry has seen this before. Her Mountain View neighborhood devastated by a raging river when the flood channel behind their homes overflows during heavy rains.
We lost shoes, clothes, cars.
That's right. For 45 years, they've been dealing with this headache, and they're not alone.
Thankfully, everybody was able to get out safely, but it's really, really sad to see this.
Further down the flood channel in Shelltown, it's happening there too. Streets underwater, crews rescuing residents on kayaks.
But I know they have to get the people out first.
This woman in tears because her dog is trapped in her home. Neighbors say the water rose around 7 feet in about 30 minutes. Back in Mountain View, neighbors are trying to clean up the mess. Check out this backyard. The fast-moving mud knocked over their fence. Their belongings under a pile of mud that's deceivingly deep, something I discovered the hard way when my boot sank. And it took several tugs to get it out. The water also raced through homes, carried patio furniture away, and slammed into garage doors with such force it caused damage.
It was really devastating to see people having to be paddled out, kayaked out. It was. And it was scary.
Fire crews came through the area to see how many people will need assistance tonight. They're estimating about 200, but there is some good news. Remember that woman crying because her dog was trapped at home?
Oh, God, I'm so relieved. Because I said, I know, of course, people are the priorities, right? But I was worried about my doggy, too.
Yeah, great sight to see there. Okay, so as you probably can tell behind me, people do have power out here. They do have water. The problem, though, Carlo and Marcella, is that the folks on this side of the street had so much mud inside their homes that it got into their kitchens, it got onto their furniture, in some cases onto their beds. And so those folks are going to be cleaning up for a long time and probably cannot spend the night.
Steve, such devastation. We can see that the neighbors are cleaning up. Are they hopeful that the worst of it is over?
They definitely are. We do know that there's going to be a little more rain coming tonight, but fire crews, Marcella, are very concerned about all the rain we're getting up in the mountains. They're worried that's going to wash into the channel and could flood this neighborhood again. So everyone out here keeping their fingers crossed that that doesn't happen.
It's going to be a long cleanup process. Hopefully they get no more flooding there, at least for this round. We are thinking of them. Thanks so much, Steve.
Okay, you might think homeowners insurance or renters insurance would cover damage from flooding like that, but in fact, it will not. CBS 8's David Gofferson is working for you. He talked to an expert on flood insurance and found out why you might want to get it. He joins us live from Mountain View. David.
That's right, we're live along Ocean View Boulevard, and this flood channel you see behind me cuts right through the neighborhood with residential homes on both sides. And chances are all the damage from that flood channel overflowing is not going to be covered by homeowners insurance. I spoke to Doug Heller today, an insurance expert, a consumer advocate. He's with the Consumer Federation of America.
The most important thing that people need to recognize is that their home insurance policy will not cover damage done by a flood. Across the United States, flood insurance is covered separately from our home insurance policy and is actually excluded from the home insurance. So you have to buy a policy. Most people who have it get it through the National Flood Insurance Program. If you go to the National Flood Insurance Program's website, which is floodsmart.gov, you can learn about how to get the flood insurance coverage, but you can't get flood insurance the day of or the day after the flood. So that's one of the things for people who are just recognizing that their home insurance policy doesn't cover it. This is not going to be a solution you can do retroactively. If you live in what's considered a very high-risk flood zone based on the national flood maps, you will be required to have it attached to your homeowner's policy, and you'd have to buy that secondary policy. But the vast majority of Americans are not in those high-risk flood zones, so they're not required to buy the flood insurance. And of course, we have a situation like we do this week with big rains and floods that are hitting homes that are not required to be covered and too often simply aren't covered. So if you talk to your insurance agent, they can usually help you get the flood policy. Oftentimes they can actually write it themselves. They can put it together. It is important to know that it's not a full homeowner's insurance policy. You have a maximum coverage limit of $250,000 plus and less for the contents of your home. So your home may cost more than what the flood coverage policy will provide you to rebuild if there is a complete damage to your home. But $250,000 is certainly better than nothing.
Well, what does it cost? Can you give me a ballpark figure what it might cost you?
Sure. The cost of flood insurance really ranges, and there have been changes over the last couple of years to pricing of flood insurance. But in California, the average premium is somewhere in the $800 to $900 a year range.
Now, a lot of vehicles were damaged with water and mud as well, and there is some good news. If you've got full comprehensive coverage on your vehicle, that water damage should be covered. However, you're still going to have to pay your deductible.
Okay, so but what about those cars after that happens, David? Is there any chance those cars that have all this water damage are going to end up on sale in the next year or so?
That could happen. That insurance expert told me, buyer beware. What happens is the insurance companies, they total out those cars and then they get resold at auctions and they end up getting sold, and they can be real lemons. Water damage is really bad on cars. You can have problems with them. They get resold at auctions and they will be resold with a salvage title.
Good warning on those and some good information on insurance for flood insurance. David Goffredson reporting for us. Thanks, David.
Drivers were stuck on northbound Interstate 15 for hours this afternoon when it flooded near 32nd Street.
CBS 8's Richard Allen continues our coverage near the freeway tonight. Richard.
Well, that's right. We're here above the I-15 freeway right at Ocean View, where you can see, thankfully, that the traffic is flowing freely right now, but that was not the case just a little while ago. Earlier today, take a look at what it looked like here along the 15 at Ocean View in the afternoon. An absolute mess. You can see the I-15 freeway was clearly no match for Mother Nature as the deluge of rain just poured down onto this roadway here, flooding this section of the I-15, backing up cars for miles and frustrating drivers, some of whom got out of their cars as they continued to wait for hours. You can also see the intrepid Caltrans workers working their wonders here in this muddy mess, trying their best to unclog the freeway. It's a task that took them hours to achieve, but thankfully they did succeed. Now, you really have to hand it to these Caltrans workers doing their best in these challenging conditions, but of course you can understand the frustration of these drivers. Now, coming out back here, you can see once again that the traffic is flowing freely along the I-15, not the case earlier today. A reminder, though, even though the rain has let up, if you find yourself driving out here later on tonight, to take it easy. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Richard. The 15 wasn't the only stretch of road forced to shut down today. There was another traffic mess in North County.
As CBS 8's Brian White reports from Oceanside, State Route 78 was completely flooded out.
Floodwaters encroaching on the 78 freeway here near El Camino Real, where the storm drains just can't keep up as the Buena Vista Creek that runs alongside it overflows onto the roadway. Stormwater runoff surging across the freeway on-ramp. as rising floodwaters made the 78 impassable in both directions.
It's pretty bad. I was just trying to stay safe, trying to be nice and slow.
East and westbound lanes completely shut down by CHP for most of the day from El Camino Real to College Boulevard.
You can see all the cars lined up on the 78 trying to get off.
Drivers inching along bumper to bumper as they were rerouted off the freeway.
You watching out for those flash floods? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's what my wife just texted me and tell me to avoid 78.
A flash flood warning from the National Weather Service went out in these text alerts to people in Oceanside, Carlsbad, Vista, and Escondido, warning of the potential for flooding.
I did get a little alert on my phone, actually, matter of fact. I just got some on my car radio, too, so those are all coming out. And I'm glad Channel 8's up here in North County.
Here, a CHP officer works to clear debris from blocking a storm drain on the 78 near Emerald Drive. Meanwhile, Escondido got a good soaking with a steady downpour of heavy rain throughout the morning.
I woke up at about 6 this morning from the rain hitting my roof, coming down really hard. It's good for San Diego County. We get not a lot, but we get it steady coming down when it gets here, and that's what we need.
The westbound lanes of the 78 have since been reopened, but a spokesperson for Caltrans told me they don't expect the eastbound side to reopen until tomorrow. In North County, Brian White, CBS 8.
Thanks, Brian. Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis has been tracking the storm and the flooding.
She joins us now with some of the rainfall totals and what we can expect going into the night. Carlene?
Yeah, we are talking about a whole lot of heavy rainfall that we saw earlier today. So we were also saying that last week we were going to already be saturated because we had weekend rain, and then we were expecting more of a deluge for today, and that's exactly what we got with that heavy rainfall. This is some video that we had that was shot earlier earlier today, and this evening things are calming down a little bit more, but that was not the case this morning. This was shot in National City, where we had a lot of heavy downpours. And when we take a look at the radar, you can see over the last 12 hours just an influx of moisture as we were dealing with a broad atmospheric river event. So when you actually take a look at when that happened, it was probably earlier that we had that happen in the morning hours, around the 10 o'clock hour, especially for National City, when we start to see the heavier pockets of rainfall moving through. When we look at what's actually sticking to the ground right now, we do have some lighter showers we're seeing, and even pockets of moderate rainfall for Chula Vista near Bonzel, near Bonita. And then if we take a look closer towards North County, we are seeing some isolated showers near Bonzel, as well as seeing that for Valley Center and for Vista, and starting to move in with a little bit more rain as we go into tonight, because we still have some of that moisture towards the north of us. You're seeing it move in for Irvine across Orange County, and that's going to move in from the northwest towards the southeast. So we're not entirely done just yet. We still have the flood watch in effect for the entire county. We could start to see some of those flood advisories if we do get some more of those moderate pockets of rain moving through tonight through tomorrow morning, and still monitoring the San Diego River, as we do have a flood warning that keeps going all the way until 12:30 tonight. We'll take a look at your complete forecast and those rainfall totals coming up. Marcella?
Thanks, Carlene. And don't forget, you can get the very latest forecast and have weather alerts sent straight to your phone. Just download our free CBS 8 app or visit our website, cbs8.com.
And using that app, you can show us the weather where you live. Share photos and videos on it. Use the Near Me button that's at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Click Share with Us, and we will share some of those images, the pictures and videos during our newscasts.